you were born in Trinidad.
I was.
And then you moved to New York. Tell us about your journey.
Well, actually, I came to the United States when I was 14 years old. I actually grew up in the Washington, D.C. area.
Okay.
Upon graduating from college, I went to Mount St. Mary's University. I moved to New York and started modeling with the Wilhelmina Modeling Agency. I was with them for 10 years, and then Ford Modeling Agency for 15 years. And during that time, I came upon two other careers, one of being an artist and second, restaurateur.
Okay, how do you stumble into, okay, you're how tall,
6'2".
Yeah, you're 6'2",
Yeah.
this handsome man, and how do you stumble into painting and then opening a restaurant?
Well, it's sometimes they say there are no accidents and your life is probably already predetermined and you kind of just go through the journey and go where you're supposed to go. So the modeling thing started because a friend of mine that I went to college with had thought that I could model. I actually played soccer, was drafted to try out for San Diego. The NASL, which was the outdoor league at the time, folded. And then I took my friend's offer up. I came to New York. The Wilhelmina Modeling Agency said they told me how difficult it was for models of color, but they said they would give me a try. I worked and, it became something of its own. However, the art part of it, I always loved drawing as a child, but I never painted. And I was on an assignment in Paris. I went to Musée d'Orsay. I absolutely fell in love with the paintings of Henri Matisse, the French Impressionist, and actually started copying his work for like 6 months. Then I started painting friends and family members in that style. It became a career of its own because Elsa Clinch, who was doing CNN House of Style at the time, had featured me on one of her segments and featured my art as part of the story. And CNN that time went all over the world. So people were calling me saying, "Oh, Ray, can we buy your art?" And that became a career of its own. As for the restaurant part of it, one of my friends that I was working with asked me what I wanted to do after modeling. And being off of the regular workforce for such a long time, I wasn't able to start at an entry-level position, so I knew I had to create something for myself. So her boyfriend was a restaurateur. He was about to open a restaurant in Los Angeles with a few celebrities that you may have known, Denzel Washington and a few other people, Norm Nixon, Debbie Allen. So Brad Johnson was the guy's name. So Brad asked me if I'd like to invest with them. I did, and I was one of the partners of Georgia Restaurant in Los Angeles, and I kind of learned back of the house operations from Brad.
Okay. So, you have a very colorful journey. I'm just so intrigued that you really stumbled into modeling, and then that translated to travels, worldly travels. I assume that when you were traveling abroad that you fell in love or found a love rather for culture and for art. So you picked up the paint and brush when you were modeling, and then after that you said, well, modeling is not forever,
right.
It's not long term, and then you decided to go into business. So for anyone who is in that position now, they're in the predicament of they're modeling or they're an artist or they're a musician, but they know that that's not long term for them. How do they know to even invest in a restaurant? How do they know what the next step is in their life?
Well, for me, I'm very observant of things around me. And when I came into the modeling industry, there were a lot of models that I had seen when I was in high school that were, they were still at the agency. They were at the end of their careers, and they didn't know what their next step was going to be. And so I never wanted that to be me. So I knew somewhere along the line, I would have to transition into something else. So while I actually was modeling, I always saved and put something aside for the next phase, whatever that was.
There's a key point. I hope people are listening to save.
Yeah, so
save as you go along.
Yeah, because it's like you're absolutely correct. It doesn't last forever. And so what is your next step? And as I said previously, after being a model for, let's say, 10 years or whatever, to go into an entry-level position is almost like taking a step back. So I knew it's planning for the future. And actually, whatever you do, I think you should always have that, what's the next step, plans, at least somewhere in the background.
And did you have a passion for food? I assume you did with your Trinidadian
Exactly
roots.
Right. I mean, my brother and I, my brother is 2 years younger than I am, and when my mom came to the United States, we were raised by our grandparents. And my grandfather was like a jack of all trades. I mean, he can build a house from scratch. My brother was always under my grandfather, and I was always under my grandmother in the kitchen. So I learned to cook from my grandmother, and I always had a passion for that. And for me, I approach food like I do art. You know, what can I put together to kind of have this flavor, or these two ideas might be interesting together. And so I was always kind of creating like that. So I had the passion for that. And most models or actors, when they start, somehow they get into the restaurant industry. So I worked as a waiter when I first started modeling. And I actually liked the whole thing of meeting different people and having that relationship. So it was kind of an easy transition for me to go into the hospitality industry.
It sounds like one career led to the next, ultimately to here we are today at Alvin and Friends.
Absolutely correct. I mean, I do believe that there are no accidents, and I think that our lives sometimes are predetermined for us. We're not sure how it happens when it's happening, but it goes along. Because even the painting, I bought paints and easels for an old girlfriend, and she never touched it, and that's how I started painting. So I always say that my journey was to meet that person so that I can buy the supplies to become an artist. So that's interesting.
And your pieces are in the restaurant.
Yes.
What we're looking at are some of your original paintings.
Yep, they're all original. And I lived in Los Angeles for a while, so while I was there, we had a lot of the celebrities came into the restaurant because of the association with the celebrities. So actually a lot of celebrities are my clients. So Denzel owns my work, Halle Berry,
That's
a lot
impressive.
of other people. Yeah,
so your paintings are in Hollywood homes.
Yes, and actually, if you saw the movie The Best Man Holiday,
yes.
I did the paintings for that movie as well. So
okay, I'm going to have to go back and find that clip and say I know the artist.
Yeah, so,
what were some challenges you experienced along your journey? And what did you learn from them?
You know, well, as there were different industries and there are different things that you go through as you transition or whatever. With the modeling, one of the things was there weren't a lot of black faces around, and it was very difficult at the time. Like I said, Wilhelmina, when they were trying to sign me, they told me how difficult it was, and but I think if you're prepared and if you have a certain self-confidence in yourself, you kind of like, you just do, and you let the chips fall where they may. And, a perfect example, like every model wants to be in GQ. When Wilhelmina was ready to send me to GQ, I didn't want to go because I saw that my portfolio wasn't where it was supposed to be, because I saw people that had much better portfolios and they weren't working for GQ, so why would they want to book me? And I waited like about 6 months. I came in and I said to my agent, I said, you know what, I think I'm ready to see GQ. They sent me in a lunchtime. I went over, I saw them, had a nice interview, came back to the agency, and my agent said, GQ just booked you for a 4-day shoot.
So you shouldn't limit what is for you. I'm sure you learned that, right? So never limit yourself, never limit your thinking.
No, I think
because you never know.
No, I actually think that being prepared was what got me, because when I went to see them, when I felt I was ready, the confidence that I exuded there in front of them with my portfolio being where I felt comfortable with it, I think that was the part that actually got me the job. I don't know if I had gone 6 months prior, if it would have been the right timing. I think you sometimes have to be prepared, and the more prepared you are, the luckier you become.
Oh, well, that's a quote.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes from Oprah Winfrey. Opportunity happens when preparation meets luck.
Exactly.
And my other favorite one is stay ready so you don't have to get ready. You
That's
were
right.
ready. Your portfolio
Right.
was ready.
Exactly.
Do you have a playbook or a book of advice for aspiring models, or artists, or restaurateurs?
I mean, it's very difficult, whatever we do. My thing is, you've got to believe in yourself, and you've also got to have a realistic view of what you're doing and know that there might be shortfalls, but if it is your passion, you just have to follow through with it and be persistent with it. If you're going to be easily sidetracked by somebody telling you something negative or whatever, you might not be in the right field. So it's just a matter of endurance and believing in yourself and going for what you want, meeting and talking to people that's smarter than you are, and listening and actually taking what the nuggets that are, fruitful and making that work for you. So. Very
good advice from Mr. Alvin Clayton, owner of Alvin and Friends. Thank you so much for sharing that with our Workplace TV viewers.
You're welcome.